Hello and welcome back to the Tech Blackboard. Today is our part 13 of DP203 exam Q&A series, and once again we are going to cover 15 very important questions, and today we will focus on questions based on Azure Storage, Azure Synapse, Azure Datafactory and some other topics as well. Friends, I'm getting a lot of suggestions to cover case studies on DP203 and I'm surely working on the same. Thank you so much for these suggestions, and soon you will see case studies on DP203. By any chance, if you missed watching any of the previous 12 parts, I strongly recommend you watching those. We have already covered 116 questions on DP203. Many important concepts were explained and I shared relevant Microsoft documentation for your self-learning. And for those who are new here today, I want to emphasize that you can get a free PDF file containing all the questions discussed in last 12 parts, with help of which you can also learn in offline mode. Links for all the previous parts are shared in the description box. And friends, as always, I will share a free PDF file containing all the 15 questions with answers discussed in this video, and for that you have to tell me the correct answers for the question number 163, 174 and 175. Keep watching the video and find out the answers to all these three questions. And as always, if this video adds any value to your learning, please take a brief moment to appreciate our work. Do like and share this video, subscribe to the channel and press that bell icon to receive all the notifications of our upcoming videos. So let's start learning and get one step closer to our DP203 certificate. So let's open our part 13 with some questions on Azure Storage. Here comes our question number 161. The question says that you have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure Storage account. You plan to implement changes to the data storage solution to meet the regulatory and compliance standards. Every day, Azure needs to identify and delete blobs that were not modified during last 100 days. The solution given here is that you apply an expire tags to the blobs in storage account. Does this meet the goal? And the correct answer for this question is no. So what do you think is the correct answer? We have already discussed all the variations of this question in part 10 in question number 117, 118 and 119. So this is basically a revision question. Pause the video, take a moment and put the correct answer in the comment section. But for now, I can tell you the correct answer for this question would be to use Azure Blob Storage Lifecycle Policy. And please refer part 10 for the complete explanation. Now let's move on with question number 162. The question says that you have an Azure Storage account that contains 100 GB of files. The files contains rows of text and numerical values. 75% of the rows contain description data that has an average length of 1.1 MB, and you need to plan to copy the data from the storage account to an enterprise data warehouse in an Azure Synapse Analytics. Further, the question says that you need to prepare the files to ensure that the data copies quickly. And solution given here is that you copy the files to a table that has a column store index. Does this meet the goal? The correct answer for this question is no. Now let's explore two more variations of the same question and then I will show you the correct solution. So here comes question number 163. The question is exactly the same. However, this time the solution is that you modify the files to ensure that each row is more than 1 MB. Does this meet the goal? And this time also, my friends, the correct answer is no. So what is the correct solution? Let's find out in the next question. And here comes question number 164. This time the solution given is that you convert the files to the compressed delimited text files. And this time correct answer is yes. Now let me show you the Microsoft documentation based on which I have chosen yes as the answer to this solution. So this is the Microsoft documentation which says best practices for loading data into a dedicated SQL pool in Azure Synapse Analytics. And here in the first paragraph itself, you can read that Microsoft clearly says that all file formats have different performance characteristics. For the fastest load, use the compressed delimited text files. And it's quite interesting to know that the difference between UTF-8 and UTF-16 performance is quite minimal. And here comes question number 165. The question says that you have an Azure Synapse Analytics workspace named WS1 that contains an Apache Spark pool named Pool1. You plan to create a database named DB1 in Pool1. You need to ensure that when tables are created in DB1, the tables are available automatically as external table to the built-in serverless SQL pool. Which format should you use for the tables in DB1? Your options are CSV, ORC, JSON or Paraquet. And the correct answer for this question is option D, Paraquet. Now let's jump on to the question number 166. The question says that you are planning a solution to aggregate streaming data that originates in Apache Kafka and is output to the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. The developers who will implement the stream data processing solution use Java. Which service should you recommend using to process the streaming data? Your options are Azure Event Hubs, Azure Data Factory or Azure Stream Analytics, and the last option is Azure Databricks. The correct answer to this question is option D, Azure Databricks. Now let's move on to question number 167. Very interesting question. The question says that you are designing a slowly changing dimension for supplier data in Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool. You plan to keep a record of changes to available fields, and here you can see that we are given with the list of columns which stores the information about the supplier. So we have supplier system ID, supplier name, description, category, address, city, country and postal code. Further, the question says that which three additional columns should you add to the data to create type 2. Type 2 means SCD type 2. And your options are surrogate primary key, effective start date, business key, or should you add last modified date, effective end date or foreign key. Now let me show you the correct answer and then I will take you to the Microsoft documentation. The correct answer for this question is option A, B and E. Before we go to the Microsoft documentation, please note that we are talking about SCD type 2. So this is the Microsoft documentation that will give you all the information on various type of SCD, type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 6. Now let's jump on to the type 2 SCD. We have discussed all the types of SCD in our previous parts as well. So now I will just highlight the relevant sections. Here you can see that Microsoft says that in case of type 2 SCD, the dimension table must use a surrogate key to provide a unique reference to a version of dimension member. Further, it says that it also includes columns that define the date range validity of the version. Normally we use start date or end date for this. And also you can use a flag column, for example, is current. So using Microsoft documentation as a base, we have chosen to include surrogate primary key, effective start date and effective end date so that this supplier table is now following SCD type 2. Now let's move on to question number 168. The question says that you have a Microsoft SQL Server database that uses a third normal form from schema. You plan to migrate the data in database to a star schema in an Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool. You need to design the dimension tables. The solution must optimize read operation. What should you include in the solution? Here you can see that you have to answer this question on two levels. So let's check out the first part of the question. This one says that you have to transform data for dimension tables. Your options are maintaining to a third normal form, normalizing to fourth normal form, or should you denormalize to a second normal form? The correct answer for this part of the question is that we should denormalize to a second normal form. And this is because we want to optimize read operations. And just to give you more detail on what is denormalization. So basically denormalization is a process of transforming higher normal forms to lower normal forms via storing the join of higher normal forms from relations as base relation. Denormalization increases the performance in data retrieval at cost of bringing update anomalies to the database. And friends, there could be one more condensed version of what is denormalization. Basically, you introduce data redundancy in the tables because this will remove unnecessary joins between the tables and improve performance. Now let's look at the second part of the question that says that for primary key columns in dimension table, use new identity columns, or should you use a new computed columns, or should you use business key column from the source system? The correct answer to this question is that you should use new identity column. And to understand the identity column, that the collapsing relation strategy can be used in this step to collapse classification entities into component entities to obtain flat dimension tables with single part keys that connect directly to the fact table. The single part key is a surrogate key generated to ensure that it remains unique over the time. So basically friends, identity columns are mostly auto-generated and it acts as a mechanism to uniquely identify each record. Now let's move on to question number 169. The question says that you are creating dimension for a data warehouse in Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool. You create a table by using transact SQL statement as shown in the following exhibit. Here you can see that we have a create statement, which is essentially creating a dimension product table. You can also observe the columns and the data types for this table. Further, the question says that you have to use the drop-down menus to select the answer choice that completes each statement based on the information present in the graphic. So let's check out the first part. It says dim product is a dash. So basically you have to fill this blank with these options given below. And you have to tell which kind of slowly changing dimension it is. Your options are type 1, type 2 and type 3. The correct answer for this question is type 2. Now let's check out the second part of this question. It says product key column. This one here, you can see this is product key column. The data type is int and it's a identity column. So you have to tell whether this product key column is a surrogate key, a business key or an audit column. And the correct answer for this part of the question is that product key column is basically a surrogate key. And friends, I just explained you in the question number 167, in case of type 2 SCD, we have to have a surrogate key and we include columns like start date and end date that defines the date range validity of the version, or you can also say the particular record. Now let's move on to question number 170. The question says that you are creating dimension for data warehouse in an Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool. You create a table by using transact SQL statement shown in the following exhibit. And here my friends, once again you can see that we have a create table statement creating a table which is called dim product with all these columns listed here along with their data types. And then further the question says that which two columns should you add to the table so that the table supports storing two versions of a dimension member as a separate columns. Please note that each correct answer presents the part of the solution. Your options here are that should you add effective start date or should you add current product category. The third option is effective end date. The fourth option is product category and the fifth option is original product category. And the correct answer for this question is option B and option E. And friends, with these answers, could you guess what kind of SCD it is? Is it a type 1, type 2, type 3 or type 6? Let me know your correct answer in the comment section. Now let's move on to question number 171. The question says that you are designing a data mart for the human resources department at your company. The data mart will contain employee information and employees transactions. From a source system, you have a flat extract that has the following field. Here you can see that we have this extract with employee ID, first name, last name, recipient, gross amount, transaction ID, government ID, net amount paid and transaction date. Then the question says that you need to design a star schema data model in Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool for the data mart. Which two tables should you create? And your options are a dimension table for transaction, a dimension table for employee transaction, a dimension table for employee. The fourth option is a fact table for employee and the last option is a fact table for transaction. And the correct answer for this question is option C, a dimension table for employee, and option E, a fact table for transaction. And friends, if you're interested to know more on fact table, dimension table or integration table, this is the documentation that you can refer. You can find the link for this documentation and all the other documentations in the description box. Now let's move on with question number 172. The question says that you are designing a fact table named fact purchase in an Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool. The table contains purchases from supplier for a retail store. Fact purchase will contain the following table. Here you can see all the columns of this table along with the data type and also given whether these columns are nullable or not. Further, the question is saying that fact purchase will have 1 million rows of the data added daily and will contain 3 years of data. The transact SQL queries similar to the following query will be executed daily. And here you can see that we have select supplier key, stock item key, is order finalized, and then you're also doing a count star, which is essentially the record count. And here you can see the where condition along with the group by clause. Then the question is asking you that which table distribution will minimize the query times. Your options are replicated. Option B is hash distributed on purchase key. The option C is round robin, or the fourth option is hash distributed on is order finalized. And the correct answer for this question is option B, hash distributed on purchase key. Now let's move on to question number 173. The question says that you are designing a dimension table in an Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool. You need to create a surrogate key for the table. The solution must provide the fastest query performance. What should you use for the surrogate key? Your options are a GUID table, which is globally unique, or should you use a sequence object or an identity column? The correct answer for this question is option C, an identity column. Now let's move on to question number 174. The question says that you are implementing a batch dataset in paraquet format. Data files will be produced by using Azure Datafactory and stored in Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. The files will be consumed by an Azure Synapse Analytics serverless SQL pool. You need to minimize storage costs for the solution. What should you do? Your options are use snappy compression for the files. The second option is use open row set to query paraquet files. The third option is create an external table that contains a subset of columns from the paraquet file. The fourth option given is store all data as string in paraquet file. And the correct answer for this question is option C, create an external table that contains a subset of columns from the paraquet files. And with that, let's move on to the question number 175, which is the last question for the part 13 of DP203 exam Q&A series. Let's read out the question. The question says that which Azure Datafactory component contains the transformation logic or the analysis command for the Azure Datafactory's work? Your options are linked service. The second option is datasets. The third option is activities, and the fourth option is pipelines. And the correct answer for this question is option C, activities. And friends, in case you don't know what are these various components of Azure Datafactory, then here is a quick explanation. So let's look at them one by one. So linked services are objects that are used to define connections to data stores or compute resources in Azure. On the other hand, datasets represent data structures within the data store that is being referenced by the linked service object. And then we have activities. So activities contains the transformation logic and analysis commands of the Azure Datafactory's work. And last but not the least, pipelines are logical grouping of activities. So in a pipeline, you can have multiple activities that could be performing different jobs. Hope you enjoyed today's 15 questions on DP203. And friends, please note that we have started a full course on Azure Fundamentals that will give you many insights on Azure Cloud. So in case you or anyone in your family or friends are interested, please watch and share this video series. And before closing this video, please press the like button and help us reach more and more people who are looking forward to learn cloud. And also, please share your suggestions and feedback on our current content and what you want to see on the Tech Blackboard channel. You can connect us or message us in the YouTube comment section, on Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger, or you can also simply tweet us. You can also email us on connectus@thetechblackboard.com. Thank you so much for learning with us. I will see you in the next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.
If this video has added any value in your learning, a like and subscribe is highly appreciated. Share this video in your family and friends to spread and expand their learning. Your comments and feedback give me a chance to interact with you, and I look forward for them. We will meet again in our next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.